So now I come to a section about clothes. The first lesson I'm going to show you is about how to draw in the folds on a white piece of clothing. I'm just going to use this baby's little vest top. I'm going to show you how to get this effect. It's very subtle, the effect of these wiggly folds here, how the fabric lies, and then also this little pierced out bit of lace effect. Starting with these main folds first of all, obviously you want it still to look white, so you don't want to introduce too much grey, but you do need to suggest where the folds go under and over. So we're just going to use this warm grey colour and just use it very sparingly. Making sure not to go over the white areas. And in this example we are going to leave the white areas the white of the paper. So it's a nice clean, crisp white finish. You'll notice as I'm going and working in this area, I've drawn a line around the outside line that I'm working to. This is just because I'm going to leave the background of this portrait white, and sometimes that just helps. Obviously if you left it without a bounding line, you wouldn't be able to see the definition of the shoulders of the child. This background is actually grey, on ours it's actually white, and so we need something just to give it definition, to break up the white against the white, otherwise it's just that information would be lost. Within each of these sections there's different areas where that shadow is a little bit darker. We're just going to use the same colour and just press on a little bit harder in those places. You can see now I'm using a very light stroke. They're only very pale, these lines that show the shape, the direction of the folds. It's a bit of the same technique as when we were first doing the skin tones on this very pale baby. Very light stroke. And you can see when I did my original drawing in, I've just suggested these lines. It's the curve of these lines that are going to give definition and shape to the curves of the folds of fabric, because you've not got much colour on there to help you in any other way. There's not even really any shading that you can do. If you want to keep it nice and bright and white, you can't really put too much of the grey on. So you're relying on things like that line there, which is why sometimes it's easier to define the clothes if you've got a pattern. People get a bit frightened of drawing patterns on clothing, but really they're easier when it's like that. As long as you've got your original drawing carefully placed and accurate, those lines are the things, and patterns, those are the things that help suggest the clothing more effectively. Just at this back edge, it's not evident on the photograph, but I'm going to just darken things towards the back edge the same way the skin tones darken as less light hits the front of them. It's dark enough towards the back edge. I'm just going to do that on here. It's not on the photograph. This is where, again, I'm using artistic license just because I know it's going against a white background and I want something to help define that back edge. And it gives us a good dark point that then the folds are coming forward from, the same way we did with hair when we were doing the hair lesson. these darker areas, I'm going to maybe go into using a bit of a bluey grey. I'm just going to lift this up a minute, make sure I can see that I've put enough depth of colour in that it's going to stand out against the rest of the portrait, but I think that's fine. Literally that amount of colour is all I would put in for that part of it. And I'm just going to go in and work these pierced out parts, but you can see the skin tone through. And I'm just going to go along these lines, just putting dots. Obviously they don't have to be exactly where they are on the photograph. Some areas where you can't see them as much, I'll just indicate by a line. And where the fold change direction, they start off as wide square dots, and then where the fold happens and the valley of the fold is, it's almost going to a point. That curve comes over and becomes like a point, so we're just suggesting that, making the dots smaller at that area. I'm just going to go in and use a darker skin tone now, just to really make it look as though there are holes through the fabric. The way I would work with any type of shirt or t-shirt would be working up the fold lines in a pale grey like this, or maybe a very, very pale blue. And then putting the colour in on top. Similarly, a shirt that's, we'll go on and I'll be showing you in another demonstration a checked shirt, working in exactly the same way. I'll be putting in the folds first and then adding the colour and texture of the fabric afterwards. So there we go. White t-shirt.